What is up, guys? Kevin Cage back with another cryptocurrency update. If you want daily crypto news, be sure to like and subscribe, and let's dive right into this one. So we're going to do things a little differently today, and I want to talk about another one of my favorite assets, QNT. Now, do not fear, we will be doing an XRP video after this. I will be uploading it and fighting the FUD as always, specifically from that other commentary in 2018 from Gary, the newly nominated SEC chairman. Stay calm, do not act out of emotion, and let me talk about QNT. So I'll do my best to do a one-take uncut and try not to lose my train of thought here. There's a bunch of great information. As you know, and as I've shared in previous videos, I've been a long-time holder of this asset. I bought the pump at the end of 2018. I bought the pump in 2019 before the March crash, and I've bought the pump essentially a little bit this year. But overall, I've been diversifying, even accumulating a lot more XRP this year in 2020 and now 2021. So I'm very excited for the years ahead. And this is another project that I feel has some essentially limitless potential. I'm not going to give you guys a price limit because that is a price prediction. Many people in the QNT Quant community, believe 3 digits, obviously, per the tokenomics, which we'll go over, the economics per the token to kind of gauge and speculate how this asset could appreciate with real world utility. And we'll talk about the maps, the licensing fees, and just overall some good resources for you guys to follow and keep up with if you are interested or holders of QNT. Just like I own XLM, ADA, VeChain, QNT is one of my big holdings alongside with XRP. Now, XRP is obviously one of my biggest holdings, but I want to kind of show you a few of the connections that the QNT community is very excited about. Now, unfortunately, there are some QNT holders that get the value out of XRP. Their argument is, the supply and all of that. I get it. I'd be the same way. But what I believe is that these assets will be rather complementary. And I think that they are, in fact, going to be a very perfect team to essentially remove the friction from this archaic financial system globally, right? So I would say, QNT is the token, and we know Quant Network, the company, and the CEO, Gilbert's, and of course a huge background in cybersecurity. They have a lot of the connections that Ripple does, believe it or not, with central banks and a lot of countries and huge institutions. It's all good and great. I love it. And an actual use case and strong tokenomics and demand for the token. And guess what, guys? Just like XRP has FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt, drama that tries to get you to shake you out of this ecosystem, the same thing goes for QNT. There's a lot of FUD, even from, I've had people from different companies saying, QNT is garbage and telling me, and I just kind of roll my eyes because look how well it has returned, even just in the past few years. We're pushing at another all-time high. So where there is FUD, in my opinion, there is opportunity. You guys are not doing me any favor by buying any asset I talk about. Please do your own research. Do not buy something right after I talk about it. If you cannot comfortably buy an asset, set and forget for several years, I do not recommend buying it. That's just one of my rule of thumbs. Even when I do swing trade and I'm back into some active trades and profit a little bit finally, I do not buy a token unless I fully understand it, okay? And the repercussions of doing so. So we're going to go through a lot today. I want to talk about some really good Medium articles, some pages I recommend you guys following if you're into the QNT space. And then obviously, so we have, Quant Anthony. I'm sure many of you have heard of him right here. So Quant Anthony. So you can follow him at industry_Q, as well as another big page. This is, I just say SEC, it's SEQ. So you can follow them at Crypto SEQ. Now, tons of threads, tons of information. I want to go through it, and I also want to give you my take per all the connections that I know with XRP and the company Ripple. So without further ado, let's get into it a bit. So right here, we are on charts.cointrader.pro. We can see the price history on the daily for Quant versus the US dollar. Now, keep in mind, I was buying the pump way back here, and we went from, and I'm just roughly drawing some horizontal lines to see some price action. So even from this pump back then, we went up, roughly, let's just say, well over 1,000%. Then from this next pump, when we bottomed here in March, and keep in mind, guys, just so you know, when we were up here and I saw it surpassing $10 on exchanges like, what was it, IDEX and Bittrex back in the day, and I don't even think I can buy it in Bittrex anymore. I think for a US customer, they removed it from me, but I think it's still available on Hotbit, IDAX and IDEX from my memory. But when we were coming up here, people said, oh, we're never crashing. Guys, we're in a speculative market. What's cool though is that there's higher lows being formed each time. So as this asset class matures, there's going to be less and less opportunity. So those of us that got in early, set and forget, may make out like a bandit. So we showed right there about 1,000% plus. Then from even this low, when it went under $2 in March 2020, guys, last year, we came up to this next point. 300%. So it went from 1,000% to 300%. And now from that low, even from here, it's about, 50, 60%. Do you see how the return is lowering? Now, keep in mind, stay calm, guys. This asset, in my mind, can go to 3 or 4 digits if it is successful and wildly adopted. Believe it or not, the tokenomics are way more sound than, I'd say, 99% of the assets I've seen in this ecosystem. Now, not to bash on any other asset, I have a lot of long-term holdings, but QNT to me is just one of those obvious contenders in the space that I think will do a lot of great things and allow not only, this financial system, the old stuff, to plug into the new, but essentially it will allow the new stuff to operate at its highest capacity. Okay? So we'll talk about QNT. I want to talk about some obvious connections to central banks. But first, I do want to mention a few things here. So how are cryptocurrencies taxed? This was put out by iTrustCapital. Guys, if you are not familiar with, essentially submitting your taxes to the IRS with crypto, if you've, I'm going to say this, if you've invested or purchased more than $5,000, $10,000 or $100,000, and you've ever converted from XRP to ADA or converted between cryptos, those are taxable events. So you have to be aware of all of this. And literally what I did yesterday, I highly recommend it, is I joined TaxBit. Now, I've used other people such as this in the past, and I don't want to talk badly about them, but it was confusing. The user interface was not friendly. I just personally wasn't super happy with my experience, adding on like a dozen plus exchanges, but I literally joined these guys yesterday, submitted my exchanges, the API, they have way more exchanges. It was effortless. Like I did everything within 2 hours. As you guys know, I have traded Forex and I have done a lot of margin trading as well. I literally submitted a document of the margin trades to them via email. They uploaded it all for me. There's different options. So there's different accounting options as well. And the links are in the video description. You guys can save 10% with the promo code. And the cool thing is there's different types of accounting methods. And this one was actually the cheapest for me. And I'm talking about saving me, thousands of more dollars. And that can make a big, big difference when you are, submitting your cryptocurrency gains or losses for that year. So highly recommend it. Be safe. I already submitted all my trades from 2017 to, I'm even up to date now in 2021. And I'm up a lot of money this month alone. So I'm very happy, very excited for what's to come. And this is literally the #1 service for a reason. You can choose different accounting methods to see what saves you the most and then stick with that. It's real time, keeps track of your transactions, your portfolios. I absolutely love it. And remember, I only talk about services that I'm actively using. So you can see your portfolio value, you can see the gains, how much you owe, the cryptos, your transactions. It's all real time. So now that I'm all set up, I don't have to touch it for the rest of the year. I can finish it up and then click and download my tax forms, send it away, and I'm good to go. So check it out. You guys can save 10% in the links in the video description. Now, along with that, iTrustCapital is another platform I use because I do have an individual retirement account, a Roth IRA. Now, I'm heavily invested in XRP, and on this platform, Chainlink is coming, XLM is coming, you can get into Ethereum, you can get into precious metals, etc. So really good things. Pay attention to these options because I don't know about you guys, but if my crypto in this account, which it's pretty good size, goes up to $5 million, I can literally, when I'm at the required age, I can withdraw that tax-free. I'm not paying 20% or 30% in short-term capital gains. I'm getting $5 million exactly, rather than paying 10 to 30%. So I'll be withdrawing my millions. If say XRP or any other asset rockets and I have a few million, I can go put it back into my other IRA if I want. So I can go right back into Vanguard or Fidelity and be fine. I just can't withdraw it into my bank until I reach the actual age limit for an IRA. So just another option. I'm making my money work for me and just showing you guys a few things that I utilize. All right. So let's get into the good stuff. As you know, I used to watch this guy back in 2018, Blockchain Brad, and here's the CEO of Quant Network. This is Gilbert Verdian. Now, essentially watching this is what made me FOMO into QNT, look at Quant, listen to all this talk about maps and licensing fees and the applications to kind of be the glue for all of these systems to interoperate. It was really, really exciting. And just like Quant Network has Overledger, well, Ripple created, of course, ILP, Interledger Protocol. So essentially ILP is often called the TCP IP for value and money, the transmission protocol, the internet protocol. You guys can take a look at the OSI model, which will show with the transport layer and the network layer. This is the same concept. All right, interoperability protocols are key, plus ledgers, plus native digital assets. And this will create this Cambrian explosion to allow value to explode. All right, so I watched this. Blockchain Brad, as I got, I've shared. I know XRP Owl, King Solomon guys, another buddy of mine. He's been, on QNT for a while as well, along with like Chainlink early on. So we're more than just XRP investors. I want to make that clear, but I still feel that XRP will be completely fine and get out of that mess, and that is just my opinion. All right. So right here, we're going to share this. So Varg_88, and then we're going to go over some really good stuff with some central banks and SIA. As you guys know, this is more of just a high-level intro video for anybody that's new in this ecosystem. So right here, lots of people are sleeping on one of the biggest things Quant Network is currently involved in. This is Odap, Open Digital Asset Protocol, and why this makes QNT one of the most significant in crypto and market cap, obviously, undervalued projects. So a lot of the arguments in the QNT community, and I agree with them, is that they have a very small supply as well as a market cap, meaning they're very nascent. They have tons of upside potential compared to some other widely adopted crypto assets. So they're already starting a lot lower. Can you imagine if they get, that 10x multiplier effect from there? And it's entirely possible, so I will not rule it out. But keep in mind, when I'm talking about QNT, it's more than just an argument about market cap and supply. I'm talking about the actual use case of, I don't even want to say Internet of blockchains. I want to say internet or network of networks. So just like Gilbert has said oftentimes, in the very definition of the internet itself is a network of networks, interoperability. When network effects take effect, it's going to be very, very powerful. So we can see Odap is the protocol for communication between gateways, primarily with an enterprise focus. So not necessarily meant for us everyday people, just like XRP is wholesale, it's not retail. So funny enough, exchanges are halting trading. Less and less people will have on-ramps to XRP unless you're a savvy investor and have other exchanges or, know how to swap properly. It's the same case. And I've even heard Gilbert a long time ago say, we don't really need, QNT on many publicly facing exchanges. Very interesting. Those are the things that kind of excite me and make me question. All right. So I highly encourage you guys to follow him. Look at this, with MIT. We know MIT runs an XRP validator, deeply involved with DLT as well, like Algorand and Circle and a lot of these groups. And I think we should pay attention to this. So you guys are familiar with the other ISO standards that we talk about in the XRP community, but you should check out this ISO TC 307. So there's a lot of countries, I've known about this for quite some time as well, but we can kind of go through the countries and look at this. So very interesting nonetheless. Pay attention to these ecosystems. Obviously, a lot of the BRICS nations are involved. We'll keep going here. We know from the submitted drafts, the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, QNT is working on Odap with MIT and Intel. You guys can go through here as well and see it for yourselves. No surprise. You can look at some central bank documents we've shared in the past with QNT as well. Here's a quote. I have always had an idea of creating an internet protocol for money from my earlier discussion. I've been thinking on how to do it and what is the best way to do it and comparing stuff that we have done it in the ISO standards and all the other standards. Very interesting. Obviously, there's room for improvement. You could see MIT commentary. Let me retweet. Yeah, I did retweet this. Let me retweet it again so you guys can find it easily if you decide to look into this further. You can look at the partners. I know yesterday's video, I even showed you that mobile initiative, the Internet of Movement with Quant Stamp, Ripple, many other projects. All right, we can see Spoonta here. Remember, that's just, it's DLT, but it's reconciliation. Ripple is more so with XRP focused on settlement, the invisible aspect of the payment stack. You can see Alliance Block in Stellar. So we'll talk about Alliance Block as well. King Solomon was on that early, made a good return with that investment as well. So we'll keep moving here. Talked about this. Remember seeing Blockchain Brad, believe it or not, he does have some other interviews, even just last year. This one is the old one from April 2018. But watching these and just hearing Gilbert speak and his knowledge and experience and the use case and the enthusiasm, it sold me personally. So I highly recommend, not listening to an idiot like me. Take this information and then go listen to Gilbert and other people that are in this ecosystem changing the game. Okay, and just so you know, QNT is also available on Bitrue now. There is a BTC pairing right here, so you guys can sign up using the links in the video description, bitrue.com. Okay, so here's the really good thread, probably the most important thread you're gonna see if you are new to the QNT community. So people are starting to wake up. This just came out on January 10th, integrated into Europe's leading payments provider network, SIA. And keep in mind, SIA is actively working with R3 and Ripple as well, connecting central banks with 580 banks, arguably more than 580 banks now, working with central banks, governments, and enterprises. Comcast and the Rockefeller are on the board. And notice only 270 million fully diluted market cap. Now, something to note is also, Rockefeller Foundation is heavily involved with Mojaloop, Interledger Protocol, and SBI. So there's very, the same connections. So I just don't like when XRP community members attack QNT, and I don't like when QNT attacks XRP. It's very, very silly. It's tribalistic. It's, we're not in high school anymore. These are opportunities. And when people actually comprehend that they can literally complement one another, there's going to be a lot more innovation in the space when we can push each other higher. So notice QNT, we have these maps, multi-chain applications. You can have Overledger, this OS, the operating system of all of it, in this Overledger network between blockchains, enterprise blockchains, so private permission databases, maybe with some publicly interfacing features, banking APIs, payment APIs of these networks, other applications. I mean, look at this. We got Box, we got Google, Drive, Gmail, WordPress, MailChimp, all of this. So there's very, very powerful stuff. And even running a node, we're going to go over the tokenomics shortly. So if network effects take away, which arguably they may be right in front of us right now. I mean, QNT recently just hit an all-time high. We could have a very exciting few years ahead. Okay? Many RippleNet partners as well. Remember JP Morgan, Citi, and what was it? Was it HSBC? It's a third bank. They essentially control 80% of all cross-border flow in the world going through their banks. Those dinosaur infrastructure, and that is another thing that protocols like Ripple, the company Ripple, are essentially chipping away at. And they're not making it easy to essentially make them obsolete, but it's happening in front of our eyes. And that is why I'm so confident to be in the cryptocurrency space. So we'll keep going with this thread. I want you to listen to this as well.
A network of networks of blockchain, which is an interesting.
So as I said, a network of network. Here we go. This is Gilbert. William, head of technology at the Bank of England. This is another paid RippleNet customer in this Hyperledger trade finance call. And I believe, right here. So you guys can find it and listen to it. I was already going through that earlier. Apologies there.
Which is a network of networks of blockchain, which is an interesting product. Tech company unveils network of networks to solve blockchain's interoperability issue for trade. So this is a firm called Quant Network that have launched a product called Overledger. Now, I had a preview of this from one of the people from Quant a few weeks ago before their headline presentation at Sibos. Okay, so this is.
And so they already gave a presentation at Sibos, which is massive as well, just like Ripple.
Quite an interesting product. The idea is it creates common language that sits across different blockchain networks and potentially creates a connectivity backbone. They are pretty confident that they can link transactions that start on one blockchain platform and move over onto another. I know that they're particularly interested in trade finance space.
And so trade finance is a behemoth, guys. So we know Ripple, arguably XRP is attacking the remittance space, but trade finance and capital markets and lending and all of this AI crowdfunding, which we're going to go over, QNT is working on that. This is why I'm so bullish on this ecosystem, because they are very agnostic in their approach. QNT is also an agnostic, versatile token. So it's not just residing and relying on Ethereum forever. If Ethereum disappears, QNT is still here. So that is what I like. It is versatile. It can adapt to the ever-changing market and even the regulatory landscape.
Because as the article notes here, there are several competing consortia and competing platforms. And I think they're pitching to be able to join these together. Now, I've got some quite good contacts into this company.
That would be very interesting if they actually work together. So really quick, so right here we have SIA, this is based out of Italy. They provide a financial network, which is the backbone of the European financial market. If you guys are in the XRP community, you already know this like the back of your hand. 50 countries, 1,700 clients. SIA actively works with R3 and Ripple as well. And we can see this, the Eurosystem Single Market Infrastructure Gateway. Now we've talked about the partnerships with, of course, Ripple. We've talked about Quant, another tech provider they onboarded, the real-time gross settlement system, securities, instant payments. So tips, pay attention to tips. And I think you guys remember Target 2 as well, the securities platform. Remember in 2015, Ripple and Task Group. Task Group is chosen, notice, the heart of the European Target 2 T2S real-time gross settlement system from the very start. Remember, even the estimate per the order books was there's like $50 million moving every 3 to 5 seconds on this platform alone. Securities, guys, this is money, this is value that has to interoperate with other systems, other blockchains, other networks, and cross borders or cross domestic ecosystems or enterprise platforms. So whether it's, JPM coin and Libra and all this, they still need to interoperate. There's counterparty risk, and that is why I love this project that QNT, or essentially Quant Network, is building. All right. So Quant has laid the foundations for Overledger to be the global infrastructure for CBDCs, as detailed in this 36 tweet thread below. Encourage you guys to look at this. Yes, there's other competitors that are competing for the CBDC space, like Ripple, like Algorand Foundation out of MIT. There's a lot of them, and guess what? There's a lot of friction, and there's a lot of opportunity for all of them to succeed to a certain extent. So I'm diversified properly in this market, and do not be surprised if QNT becomes one of the big names, like in the top 10 assets, I'd say, in the next couple years. All right? We'll speed through this. There in collaboration with MIT, US government, Intel, Juniper, payment and telecom companies to create Odap, as we mentioned. Just go through all this information. This is sourced properly. SEQ Sec, I just call him Crypto Sec. He has some Medium articles that we're going to speed through just to finish this video. And I want to show you a few things right here. So there is only ever 14.6 million QNT tokens, with most of them already locked up in circulation. So remember, reducing the circulating supply and with an increase on demand, can absolutely push the price up. Econ 101. There's no inflation. QNT's locked up for the licensing fees, the platform fees, user fees, transaction fees, and there's actually even other ways that they can monetize their maps, all right, their multi-chain applications. So it's very exciting, and yes, any type of speculative investment requires speculation. And if you speculate correctly, you make a lot of money. Just like Peter Thiel, one of the big investors early on with Facebook. So some people may roll their eyes and think this is all just hopium. Well, I encourage you guys to go look at all these sources that CryptoSec is providing, and then you guys make a personal decision for yourselves. So, talked about SIA, working with central banks, governments, enterprises, one of the 3 blockchain projects selected as Oracle FinTech partner for financial services infrastructure. Interesting. And of course, Gilbert alone has a very, very impressive resume. You guys can look through, the connections to the UK, founder of the ISO TC307. 57 countries are working towards for global standards, just as Ripple has joined the ISO 222 standards body as well, being the first DLT-focused group. I think these projects are going to be very successful. Now, preface, there's no room in between for changing the world and landscape of international finance. And as I often say, it's hero or zero. They either change everything fundamentally and explode in value and sustain a high price, or in my opinion, they could fail altogether and go to zero. And you guys know what I believe, obviously. So, named as a supplier for the UK government Crown Commercial Services, partnered with AU Cloud, who work with the Australian government. I know I've shown documents there when that came out. Founding member of the European Commission's INATBA, just like Ripple. Working with regulators, absolutely. So QNT, yes, enterprise use case, just like Ripple. Instead of trying to change the system and be an anarchist like Bitcoin, which can't even scale, they're trying to work with the regulators. And as an investor, solely here for a return, I think that this is my better bet, personally, considering that we see regulators smashing other assets right now. And yes, we do know that the SEC is attacking Ripple for early onset practices. We will see what happens. To me, this is opportunity, and whatever happens for Ripple will set the standard and the tone for the rest of these crypto assets. So if you're betting against XRP, you are betting against innovation and regulatory clarity for all other assets. Even if you don't hold XRP, if you are a QNT holder, you should be rooting that XRP survives this mess. You shouldn't be afraid of competition. Very myopic way of looking at it. All right, scalable to any interoperability, seamlessly integrating with existing framework or networks. Encourage you guys to just go through this. Anyways, we're going to move to the next point. So talked about task group. We talked about ILP, remember, the internetwork. Here's the kind of like the OSI model, and you can see Interledger, ILP, Interledger Protocol. Same concept. Now the ledger, instead of networks like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Ethernet, we have blockchains, banks, mobile money, providers, digital wallets, and we see the trends that are growing, and we're going to touch on that. And then we're going to go over the tokenomics and, how the price of QNT could potentially go up. Okay? Excuse me. So remember, interledger protocol, just so you guys know, it draws heavily from, IP, TCP/IP, Internet Protocol, the transmission protocol or transmission control. So it's the culmination of more than a decade of research in, decentralized payment protocols started back in 2004 by Ryan Fugger. And by the development of Bitcoin in 2008, they're learning more contributions, working with Microsoft and many other groups, and gifted to the World Wide Web Consortium, which is the group that governs the entire internet. Okay? Now, Quant, essentially an operating system, and keep in mind an OS is simply just software that manages, hardware, resources, provides common services for the programs to interact. Okay? So let's talk about the exciting stuff, and then we'll talk about the actual tokenomics, and then this link will be in the video description at the very top, guys. All right, so Quant Networks, Overledger, Part 7, the QNT token, what we all care about. So we can see right here, Quant's vision is to build an ecosystem around Overledger, allowing for developers and enterprises to innovate, create value, and build game-changing multi-chain applications. We call them MAPS, M-A-A-P-P-S, for users and their customers. They plan to foster innovation by directly incentivizing developers with an app store model akin to Apple and Google stores, but instead for blockchain-enabled MAPS, multi-chain apps. Notice the trends. We talked about the Internet of Things and devices, guys, going up to billions, if not trillions, in the future. And yes, they will be connected to networks such as blockchain networks, DLT systems. So we can see 12 million mobile app developers worldwide. Total number of developers is expected to reach 14 million by 2020. I would, say it goes even higher than that. Around 6 million apps currently listed on the App Store. Notice this, with the total number of mobile app downloads in 2017 being almost 200 billion, the number of smartphone users is forecasted to grow to around 2.5 billion in 2019, with just over 36% of the world's population projected to use a smartphone by 2018. So keep in mind, this is an article from 2019 as well. I believe it may have been updated, so keep an eye on this. So Quant will be giving developers the choice of using the best business model for their map in line with market expectations via any of the following 4 revenue models. We have a freemium model, a paid model, a subscription model, and an in-app model. So let's talk about the actual utility. We already covered that. So right here, QNT token is regulated by FINMA as a utility token. Remember, payment token, security token, utility token. In my mind, XRP is much more like a payment token, obviously. This is a utility token to sustain the network and allow, you have to have QNT stake it and, pay a licensing fee to utilize all the advantages of this operating system. So, intended to provide digital access to an application or service. Access to Overledger operating system is only possible through the use of QNT tokens. These tokens must be provided to the Quant Network in exchange for an annual license or platform fee. The price of the access will be a fixed fiat amount, and the number of tokens needed will vary depending on the price of the token at the time of purchase. Everyone who wants to use a map or developer or an enterprise who wants to develop maps needs to hold QNT. Without QNT, without the token, you cannot connect to the Overledger, and your maps, your multi-chain applications will not run. So it's the same as a license key, anything like that. People have to hold it to access the ecosystem and run applications. Same as Apple with Apple ID, which is linked to the keys on your Apple device to access the App Store and run iOS apps, or Office 360, how they license their products, and you guys need, even something like an activation key. So the same thing, I literally did that last week, and I also downloaded another thing of Windows the other day. All right, so the wallet storing QNT is your identity. The private key is your password, and with the license fee, you are assigned a BPI key. This key is used to access the Overledger ecosystem for maps and users. So very exciting. You guys can look into this, and you can also see how the license fees may be calculated as well on these, this type of basis. See, there's platform fees, consumption fees, add-on services. Under the developers, there's different fees that you can do. There's even a monetization option for some. So if they choose to monetize their applications, they're going to have options to use the treasury as a payment processor to charge a subscription, a recurring price, guys, monthly, whatever you want, a one-off price or an in-app fee. This can be charged in fiat or other digital currencies such as QNT. Now, let it be known that all these groups, Ripple with the XRP ledger, Quant Network with QNT, Algorand Foundation with Algo, their native asset, and they're already working with CBDCs and kind of this borderless economy narrative, just like in Marshall Islands. they all would love for their system to be very, very valuable for that matter, right? A valuable system is not really going to affect them. They want network effects to take weight. A high token price, depending on the type of token, will have different effects. So with XRP, a higher valued XRP will make it more liquid. They'll be able to send more money. Jevons paradox, an increase in efficiency will lead to an increase in demand. Boom, explodes. QNT, same concept. So network effects, staking, just like with XRP, or a staking network, I should say, like Algorand, running any type of node, the same concept applies. So very, very powerful. Hopefully you guys get a little taste on why I'm so bullish and excited for this ecosystem. Now, first off, I cannot promise that this is, the bottom or anything like that. I think it's going to be up and down the whole way and oscillate, but we're going to have higher lows in this market over time. So you guys tell me where the bottom is. Even if BTC did a pullback, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is long term, as adoption grows, as more QNT is staked, as licensing fees and really start going, regulation is more clear, so these institutions can come in comfortably. This price, in my opinion, can absolutely go to 3 or 4 digits, and that is just my opinion. It is absolutely possible. All right. So we'll keep going here. Let me see. We're almost done, guys. So monetization. I'm talking about the trends overall. I just highly recommend looking at this, and I linked this in the top of the video description. And the cool thing is CryptoSec has a bunch of other articles you guys can read about. He even talks about AVAX, which is our buddy and obviously Avalanche consensus for the XRP ledger and Ethereum smart contracts for Flare networks. And Flare networks will be launching in Q1, Q2. We have some very, very exciting months ahead, guys. I think there's going to be a lot more FUD. There's going to be price manipulation. There's going to be swings. But this is just the sign of a market. Just like in the .com bubble, there's going to be tons of opportunity if we play it correctly. And one thing that I recommend for anybody, or at least for myself, is patience. Steel hands are going to beat the majority of people. All right. So last but not least, we're just going to finish up with this. So this is Quant Anthony. You guys can follow him at industry_Q. So QNT and ALBT. This is Alliance Block, guys, the asset that King Solomon got in early. This is all AI based. We're going to go over this briefly. We'll use Overledger to leverage multiple blockchains, create multi-chain tokens, multi-chain token swaps, bringing a new set of real world applications, leveraging different features from different chains. So just to take a quick peek. We have Alliance Block Platform. Overledger is the operating system between some private blockchains like JP Morgan or JPM Quorum, even though it should be because now consensus is involved with Quorum, Ripple, Hyperledger, etc. Then we have some publicly permissioned blockchains right here. Then we have some other blockchains, and it can even be other networks. But for this example with Alliance Block, it's showing this. So very interesting. And then right here, Quant Network is pleased to announce that they are partnering with Alliance Block, an AI-powered decentralized investment and financing ecosystem. Guys, decentralized, crowdfunding and financing, syndicate lending, like group lending. It's happening in front of our eyes. Tokenized assets, securities, real estate, it's all happening. So which allows corporates to quickly, cheaply, and safely raise funds, whether it be equity, debt, or tokens. And this is going to be with programmable money, with smart contracts, reducing the intermediaries, no more third party, building on the great innovation that Ethereum led us to. So this is one of the reasons why I believe in this asset. Highly recommend using the links in the video description. And remember, I'll mention this in the next video because it is just that good. If you need to file taxes, use TaxBit. The links are in the video description to save 10%. I will see you in the next one.